Well, as you heard mentioned, 5 former federal or provincial attorneys general have sent an open letter to the commissioner of the RCMP, Brenda Lucki, asking her and the Mounties to open an investigation into those allegations of political interference by the Prime Minister's office in the prosecution of SNC-Lavalin on charges of bribery or fraud. One of the signatories to that letter is Peter MacKay. He's a Justice Minister. He was the Attorney General and Justice Minister of Canada in the Harper government from 2013 to 2015. Peter MacKay, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Martin. Good to be with you.
What exactly are you asking the RCMP?
Well, we're asking the RCMP to look into the very serious issues that are swirling around that have been well reported, involving inappropriate pressure being placed on the then Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould, with respect to the SNC-Lavalin request for a deferred prosecution agreement, which is a new insert into the Canadian Criminal Code. And based on her testimony, but previous commentary from other witnesses and unsubstantiated reports, that pressure was brought to bear on the Attorney General, asking her to take political considerations and even economic considerations to make the decision around whether SNC-Lavalin should be afforded, and it is a privilege, to receive a deferred prosecution agreement, which is a much lighter treatment under our criminal system.
But you're asking on the basis of criminal code. You want the RCMP to start a criminal investigation. On what parts of the criminal code would this be?
Well, it's section 139, Martin, which refers specifically to obstruction of justice. And the criminal code speaks of willful attempts to obstruct or pervert or defeat the course of justice. And that's what we're suggesting, is that there is, I believe now, evidence in the public with regard to inappropriate pressures brought to bear on the Attorney General at that time. There's also a specific criminal code section which deals with inappropriate pressures or attempts to threaten or intimidate the Attorney General or a public official. And that section also, interestingly for you, Martin, includes journalists. And what that is an attempt to do is to ensure that there is integrity in the system and that those who are enforcing the law and those who are reporting on it are not subject to inappropriate intimidation. And Ms. Wilson-Raybould, you'll recall in her testimony, specifically said at several times that there were veiled threats. Now, those threats may have pertained to her removal from the justice portfolio, but we don't know. So what we really want to hear is the RCMP are going to take a look into this, which is the indication. And I believe that we will hear more coming from both the Justice Committee, but also potentially more from other witnesses who may yet to have come forward.
Okay, that's the other question, and that is the witness herself. I mean, Jody Wilson-Raybould, the person at the center of this whole thing, she told the Justice Committee that she didn't feel that anything illegal had happened. She said that no aspect of criminal law was contravened. She said that she just felt it was improper pressure. So why would you go ahead one step further and send this to the RCMP?
Well, my concern, Martin, is not just a partisan one, which some may allege, but it really comes down to the integrity of the rule of law and our entire justice system. It also reflects very poorly on our country, frankly, when we see this type of meddling. And the case of SNC-Lavalin is a complex one and one that is now very much before the public. But let's not forget we have Admiral Mark Norman, who is going on trial for a single count of breach of trust. There's allegations there of political interference. And we also have the well-reported case of Ms. Meng, who is subject to extradition currently at the request of the United States of America. And there was improper commentary from Canada's ambassador to China, which led to his removal. So we've had a string of unfortunate activities and comments and perhaps more from the government and from government officials, including the Privy Council office, which is also involved in this matter. And it's my contention that while a parliamentary committee is important, and I've certainly spent a good deal of my life and 18 years in politics at parliamentary committees, they do good work, but they don't have the same reach, they don't have the same subpoena powers, investigative tools that the RCMP would have. And that's not to suggest that we couldn't also have the ethics commissioner looking at this issue, as well as a potential public inquiry. As we saw with the Gomery Commission, all of these can take place at the same time.
Okay, a question.
The fact is, we want to get to the bottom of it, and we want to see that answers and transparency are forthcoming.
Okay, a question, you alluded to it. You have 4 conservative former attorneys general, either provincially or federally, and one who was an NDPer, who signed this letter. There are no liberals, and you said some people might see in this a partisan effort to try and to cause embarrassment to the current government. Did you try to get any liberals, any former liberal attorney generals or justice ministers to sign this?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. We reached out to numerous attorney generals, both provincial and federal, and in the interests of protecting their privacy, I'm not going to name them, but several had indicated initially a willingness to sign the letter, and then I guess on reflection they decided they would not. But I would suggest that on the public record there has been other Liberal members of Parliament and Liberal attorneys general who have provided commentary that is in line with some of the commentary that you're finding in that letter. Maybe they don't go as far as to call for a criminal investigation, but they certainly raised some very real concerns. And that, again, I come back to is the bigger picture is Canada's reputation, the confidence in our justice system here in Canada, but also how we portray ourselves to the world. And during the case involving the extradition of Ms. Meng, this was one of the main points that we registered time and time again with the Chinese, is that in Canada, we don't call judges, we don't call prosecutors, we don't interfere in the system. Well, lo and behold, now we have significant evidence that from the highest office in our country, there was indeed, to use Jody Wilson-Raybould's words, consistent and inappropriate attempts to interfere in her decision as Attorney General.
Okay, well, on that note, I want to thank you very much. We will watch this with great interest, and thanks for speaking with us.
Thank you, Martin. Always a pleasure. The best to you.